And so it is my enormous pleasure to turn things over to my favorite anchor, Brianna Keeler. Brianna?
You have to say that. I will say, I think, Kathy, you have no choice but to say that. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Brianna Keeler. I am a very proud member of the board of Blue Star Families. I'm a military spouse. I anchor the morning show on CNN New Day from 6 to 9 a.m. And I also write a column called Homefront, which is about bridging the military-civilian divide and talking about military family issues. In fact, I actually just I normally talk domestically about those kinds of issues, but most recently I got to report from Ukraine about what some military families there are going through. And it was really, really touching. And also there were a lot of common threads as well, I think, that our American military families have experienced. This is work that is really personal to me. My husband is in the Army. He's a Special Forces officer, and Blue Star Families has been amazing just for me personally. It's really helped me get through a couple of deployments, and it's also helped me professionally understanding the issues that are facing the entire community and helping me report better about them. So if you're on this call, you're like me, you're a stakeholder in this process. You are a stakeholder in the work that Blue Star Families is doing. And we are really, really excited to highlight the work that Blue Star Families is doing. So here in the next hour, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the growth that Blue Star Families is making. We're going to be talking about the plans for the future. We're also going to have a very exciting announcement, and we want you to engage in this. So you'll see that there's that chat function at the bottom of your screen. Please go ahead and engage with us on this. Any question that you have, please send it. Our Blue Star Families folks here are going to be compiling those questions. We're going to try to get to everything. We do understand, and so if you have a complex question that might require a little more digging, please go ahead and send that our way as well, because we will get an answer to you on that. If not today, we'll get that to you in a follow-up email so that we can best answer any questions that you all have here. And so before I turn it back over to Kathy, I do want us to take a look at a short impact video of Blue Star Families' work.
It is not widely understood that military families also serve alongside the service member.
At the heart of Blue Star Families is making life better for military families so that service members can continue to serve.
Thank you very much, Kathy. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today.
We would like to thank the team at Blue Star Families for hosting this informative town hall and for the many programs and initiatives that they sponsor to support our service members and their loved ones.
I've been so blown away, frankly, by the support from veterans and veterans service support organizations.
I couldn't be the ready soldier I was if my husband and my kids weren't cared for.
General Bingham, she's a trailblazer.
Blue Star Families provide such a valuable service to our country by way of communicating and gathering information from military members. So I just want to thank Blue Star Families for all the great work that you continue to do, and in particular this latest study that you're rolling out today.
It's been a long 20 years since 9/11, and military families, we're still in the arena. We're still fighting for our country and for our neighbors.
Blue Star Welcome Week kicks off tomorrow as hundreds of thousands of military families get settled into their new communities.
I'm grateful for the contributions you'll bring to our state, and of course, the service and sacrifice you make for our country.
I'm happy to take this opportunity to join Blue Star families in thanking you and your families for your courageous, devoted service to our country.
And I want to thank the Blue Star families and the American Red Cross for hosting this event and for everything that you do on behalf of military and veteran families all across the country.
If you have neighbors who right away step in when they see that giant moving van show up at your home and say, what might you be looking for? That right there would solve a huge amount of concerns that a family has when they move.
The President and I know that our military families are strong and resilient. You may not wear a uniform, but you serve in your own way, sacrificing for our country alongside your service member.
Well, I love that video. It's the first time we've done that, put together the highlights of a year for us to look back to and to share with you, our stakeholders. And that gives you a little preview of what we're going to detail with you today in a more rigorous way to hold ourselves accountable to ourselves and to you, our stakeholders, and to provide some transparency in what we do. It was amazing to have this kicked off by Brianna. Not only because she is a wonderful friend and board member, but because of what's going on in the world and the fact that she is just back from Ukraine. The work that we do has been very close to my heart, very close to all of our hearts, because we love serving in the military, we respect the US military, and we want to keep it strong. But I think in many ways what's going on in the Ukraine right now, or in Ukraine right now, underscores for all of us the stakes of what it is that we do. You know, so many times when we went about our military life, my husband in his 30 years in the Marine Corps, and we went to Japan, and people would say, many of our neighbors and friends, why are we even in Japan still? And when we went to Germany, people would say, why are we even in Europe? And I think today people are really seeing that the US military is not just a holdover of a bygone day, but that we actually create security and stability and prevent the kind of chaos and pain that we're seeing in Ukraine now that would be throughout Europe. And it would be throughout Europe, except for NATO. But when we say NATO, we're really saying the US military, you know, and it would be throughout Europe and affecting us here at home, but for the US military. But again, it's not just the US military, it's the all volunteer force. And when we talk about the all-volunteer force, it's not just those people who serve, who we recruit, but we know we recruit the soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, guardian, but we retain the family. So it really is our military families who are keeping the wolf at bay. And as much as it is a pleasure and privilege to serve, and I've always felt that way that it was, that people can't do that if it hurts their family. So we have to support the families so we can support the structure that is making all of our lives possible in an urgent way that we see right now, that's making the American way of life possible. So I just kind of wanted to start with that, which wasn't something we had originally planned, but I think it underscores that, well, there is little work that is more important to the well-being of those of us, not only in this country, but in this world, and this work that I think all of us here collectively are doing. So I wanted to thank you for being part of this journey with us. And with that, you know, I would like to turn things over to Blue Star families and talking about us a little bit more. Why Blue Star families? What is it that we do? And why is our method worth discussing here? We're 12 years old. We started not as part of a larger organization or with a wealthy individual or anyone famous. We were just a group of military family members at the grassroots who had an idea about how we could provide support support at the community level. We've grown consistently so that now we serve over 1.5 million individuals in military and connected families. We provide value back to the nation with what we do. We measure our value back to our members. And so we can see that we have delivered over $136 million of value to our members since we started. Another 72 million through cause partnerships, and in specific, 72 million to communities in the value of economic activity from the careers in which we place military spouses in the different chapters. We provide value back to the military because we measure our work and we see that it increases the resilience, which we know increases the retention of military families. Our mission, and we provide value in telling our story to the American people. And this is a little sense of our metrics and how we're reaching people throughout the country who may not be otherwise connected. And we see here how our ability to reach those neighbors, to reach Americans across the country, has improved from 2020 to 2021. So that's why we do it. What do we do? Our theory of change is that our mission is to support military and veteran families in ways that strengthen communities in order to support the all-volunteer force and improve military readiness. Our theory of change is simple. It's listen, share, partner, and act. Listen is our surveys, our pulse polls, our field work on the ground. Share is how we brief that to stakeholders, to community leaders, to other nonprofits, but it's also how we share back with our town halls, many of which you saw, getting information, getting access to leaders directly to military and veteran families around the country. We partner with so many of the people, almost all of you here on this call, find the people who are really good at doing things that need to be done and partner with them to deliver those solutions that our families need. Finally, act is bring those changes where people are, the way they want them. Then we measure and we start all over again. Listen, share, partner, and act. That is our theory of change. We're a 360-degree ecosystem. We reach from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his spouse down to a Lance Corporal and her spouse. And we go side to side, reaching those lateral organizations, nonprofit, government leaders, local community groups, so that we can help create that ecosystem of support, which we think gets us the best route forward to help with the lifestyle of the military family. We test to see how we're doing. We do the Net Promoter Score that many corporations do. And we know that our promoter scores are as high or higher than the most popular brands. Our 2021 overall Net Promoter Score is equal or better than Amazon's, American Express's, Apple, or KFC, which are some of the most beloved brands. I did want to point out that perhaps due to our campaign for inclusion and our work on racial and ethnic needs assessment and inclusion work, we particularly have strong results among our African-American and Hispanic Latino families with 67 and 64% Net Promoter Scores, which are higher than I think virtually any brand enjoys. We also look at our responses to individual programs. Blue Star Books is extraordinarily popular. Welcome Week, cause campaigns, Blue Star Parks and Events are other extremely popular programs that we have. Today, we are going to talk to you about 5 of the many impact areas that we worked across this past year. Those are Blue Star Welcome Week, our chapters and welcome programming, racial equity and inclusion, the White Oak Collaborative and Retreat, research, policy, and social impact. And we hope that you will get a lot out of that. Before I move things along, I'd like to share with you a little video. There is a woman whose name is Mackenzie Scott. She is now the 2nd richest woman in America. And she has this incredible process where she looks at organizations who are really and truly making a difference. And she dives deep into them. She hires people to look at their research and to look at their social impact and to look at how they evaluate themselves, how they hold themselves accountable. And she looks at their strategic plans, and she looks at their track record, and she looks at their staff, and she looks at the people who think that they do a good job. And then one of her folks called me up last week, and they told me, we are really impressed with what you guys do, and we're really honored to try to be a part of it. She has never before given to veteran or military projects. We've never been in her sites, but we're going to be on that list. And she's giving us an unrestricted gift of $10 million. So I want to hear you guys. I want to hear you guys.
Wow.
Easy good news.
20 million.
Yeah.
Blue Star Families.
PSF. And this is really going to make a difference for us. And here's the thing. We still do not touch over half of the military families who need us to touch them. And the veteran families are still just waking up to what we can do to them. So we are going to challenge our community to match that gift and to go farther. And we're going to keep growing and proving ourselves. We're going to invest in the new staff that we need to get. We are going to invest in some of the developments we hope to do. For instance, re-granting, so we can help train some of the other organizations out there who aren't where we are, how to do the kinds of programs we think are valuable in ways that maybe they can evaluate on our term and provide that value back without us having to do it. We're going to go till we are in all 50 states. And this is the turning point. It's the turning point for all of us. I do love that video. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you. And what I'd also love to share is what some of our plans are, as I know many of you are probably very curious about the opportunity that gives us. We are absolutely looking to make some strategic hires and improvement that will allow us to grow the way our members consistently ask us to do. We're hiring a vice president of social impact. Social impact is a real strength for us, but this will take us to the next level with making sure that there's an integrated evaluation, both internally and externally, with the families, with the members, and with the community work that we do. And we're quite excited about that. We are going to be further investing in an 18-month, nearly 2-year process of doing a digital transformation right now that'll give us even deeper and more nuanced metrics about how people are interacting with us, what's working, how we can improve. On the front end, it'll give our members a personalized experience, their own account, that they'll be able to see what they've done in the past. It'll have some gamification to encourage them in some directions in the future. It'll allow us to identify trends, direct things that might be useful to people directly to them without spamming them with things that they might not be interested in. And we would then be able to measure the effectiveness of that. We try to be a zero entry pool. We're a lifestyle organization, and we pull people in from the fun and the engagement that then we're able to see where do they need deeper help. Once we've established that trust, how can we either get them the resources they need or turn them over to the partners who can be helpful. And this digital transformation is going to really be a leap forward. We're looking for an early launch in June, but then again, we'll be able to continually improve that. This will help us with our membership growth. We have been growing consistently since we had the technology to measure our growth. We started in 2009 with Facebook and about 1,000 people on our Facebook page. The first time we had an internal system was in 2013, that was, and you can see that the growth has been consistent and strong year over year. To continue to serve this many members, we need that digital transformation, that personalized experience to give people a high quality experience. Next slide. We're really proud of the fact that we have been able to consistently have our revenue grow in excess of our expenses. We started with 0 that first year. We raised maybe, I think, 190 by the end of the first year. Everyone volunteered in year 1. And we doubled every 2 or 3 years. And we've held that really consistently over the years. And we think that our listen, share, partner, and act, and measure and iterate has let us see what works and lean into that direction, what doesn't work, and give that up so that we can facilitate this kind of growth. We know that the demand is out there and we have to keep that growth going. So that's a challenge to us. Of course, with partners like you on this call and with the support we've gotten externally, we're really confident we can continue the trajectory. Next slide. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we play the video, I wanted to say that the support comes at a critical time. We've had 20 years of war. We know there's a lot of fatigue in a lot of different areas. We have our next engagement is already started. We thought there might be a year or 2 or 3 between these kinds of engagements, but already over 100,000 US service members are deployed in and around Afghanistan and Iraq, or sorry, in and around Ukraine. This has happened after 2 years of COVID, which has taken a particularly hard hit on our community and left us with a lot of financial instability. In our recent BSF Pulse poll that we're going to be releasing publicly soon, 30% of the people who responded to how they were doing right now noted that their families had already received orders or were on standby to deploy to Eastern Europe. We see that those troops and families want to serve. Among those with orders or who are on standby, 27% are supportive of this effort, and another 1 in 5 feel it's necessary. We're a motivated group, but again, those families left behind, those families exhausted from COVID, those families, some of them who've had 20 years of war, they need support. They need support in the communities where they live, which is where we particularly focus. We need to help them fight isolation, and we need to help them navigate the issues that result in really skyrocketing levels of food insecurity for our community. Many of you here on the call are aware of that, but many people aren't still aware of that problem, and that's a story we have to continue to tell. Families need to be able to thrive while they serve the nation. Blue Star Families chapters, programs, and the way we collect data allow us to make military life better. It's our mission to do everything in our power to make sure that our members in the military and veteran families can be able to access more of what we offer. And we thank each and every one of you for your partnerships over the years that's allowed us to do that. So before I show you this video, this is about Blue Star Welcome Week. And Blue Star Welcome Week is a great example of listen, share, partner, and act. Starting in 2009, we saw that military connected families have a high level of distress that in some ways you wouldn't expect. They have higher levels of anxiety and depression, and also financial insecurity, which is hand in hand with the fact that at the same time, they're more educated, significantly more educated than their civilian counterparts, more likely to have 2-parent families. Someone has a job, we know for sure, if they're military, and they have health insurance. So why all this distress? And through iterative research and study, it's intuitively obvious perhaps, but we're able to see that it's these broken networks. The constant moving over and over again is what causes those outcomes. Most people are able to solve problems through their networks and through people they know. And when we consistently break networks, military people now, 70% or more, living in communities, not on military bases, Gen X, Gen Z, being less, millennials and Gen Z being less interested in those traditional areas of support. Isolation is a really root cause. So we looked at how do we get upstream of that problem? How do we find a solution where before that isolation sets in, we can help people find a sense of belonging? And that's what Blue Star Welcome Week is all about. We want to change the understanding of the people in the communities around which military and veteran families are moving. And we want to help those communities take responsibility for those families to help them thrive. So now I'm delighted to turn it over to this short video.
For military families, moving is a way of life. There's no aspect of your life that's not impacted and changed when you have a permanent change of station.
Isolation could put the health of our all-volunteer force and their families at risk.
The sooner and the better that they get integrated to the local community, the happier they are.
And that's why what Blue Star Families does and is doing here with Welcome Week is so important. It's good for the community and it's good for the country.
Super. And now I want to welcome our chair of Blue Star Welcome Week, Ellyn Dunford. Ellyn, I really appreciate you joining us here today with your beautiful backdrop.
Oh, thanks. Absolutely. Thanks, Kathy. As you all just saw, some 600,000 military and veteran families move each year. So for a bit of perspective, Joe and I were married for 35 of the 42 years that he served, and we lived in 20 different houses. About 25% of that time we were not on a base. So we are not atypical of a military family. 20 homes is a lot. Not all of that time did we have children living with us, but it's still a lot to get started in. I think most people are unaware that over 70% of military families do live off base, and they live in your local communities. That means that there are our neighbors, our teachers, our healthcare workers, your CPA, your fellow church congregants. So they are a part of your community, whether you know they're there or not. Those who are very lucky find a welcoming community that makes it very easy for the newcomer, the new military family, to blend into that community. I was welcomed into a neighborhood babysitting co-op when I had 3 small children, and it was life-changing for me because I was able to work part-time and have my kids in someone's care that was a friend, someone I knew in the neighborhood. Not everyone gets to find this, because not all communities are even aware that there are military families living there. So Blue Star Welcome Week raises awareness of this annual internal migration to new communities. While many service families might move during the summer, they could be entering your community at any time, any point during the year. So we aim to mobilize everyday Americans to recognize and extend that warm welcome to their military family neighbors and their veteran community. So to give you an idea of some of the impact of last year's Blue Star Welcome Week, which really was sort of a test kitchen for us to find out what works, where do we need to focus on. We really did a great job. The 2021 campaign created 285 million impressions, generated over 1,500 welcome messages, produced 80 welcoming events, and engaged with over 130 partners, some of you involved in that, including a bipartisan proclamation from the US Senate and 24 state and local proclamations. So together, we're helping military and veteran families to connect to their communities by providing moments of welcome. Joe and I are proud to serve for a second year and continue our contributions to this campaign as Blue Star Welcome Week honorary co-chairs. Blue Star Welcome Week is a great example of what Kathy talked about, the listen, share, partner, and act in action. Through repeated study, we saw that high levels of mental distress and financial insecurity had an underlying cause, and that was isolation. And that a particularly vulnerable time for our military and veteran families is during and after a move. COVID has affected all communities in this country to some extent, and the military community has been challenged to make their usual connections under much more difficult circumstances. So Blue Star's Families has used that insight to craft Blue Star Welcome Week to help resolve the challenges as an upstream solution. Because we can mobilize such a broad variety of partners, and because we enjoy a very high level of trust, we can act on a grand scale to have an outsized impact for our whole community, regardless of their location, whether it's near a military installation or a rural area or whatever. So Kathy, thank you for inviting me to speak about the important work that we're doing with Blue Star Welcome Week. And I look forward to another even bigger and bolder Blue Star Welcome Week this year.
Thank you, Ellen, and it means so much to have you and Joe part of this with us. And you know, you have such a heart for our community. People feel that, and it makes such a difference to all of us. So thank you. And we're happy to follow up with many people who have questions about getting involved in Welcome Week going forward this year at the end of September. There's many easy on-ramp ways to have your organization, your community, your company be part of welcoming military families this year. Now, I would love to introduce our chapters. That's our second impact area we wanted to focus on. Blue Star Families, as we said, started as a voluntary organization. Our first chapters were led by volunteers. Some of those volunteer chapter members are staff members with us here today. Well, it turns out there's a limit to what you can do with volunteer chapter directors. Military life is unpredictable. You get PCS orders at different times. A service member comes home wounded and you become a caregiver. It's hard to have the continuity, certainly difficult to have the metrics and the evaluation being run by volunteers. So we knew we needed to grow to being, have paid staff in our chapters. We were growing too, and we had to grow to be big enough to be able to afford those paid staff members. We had a wonderful social impact grant from Bristol Myers Squibb. This is the kind of funding I encourage people to consider doing. It was for us to test out what our theory of impact was for our chapters. Not only could we create chapters that would be popular, but would they actually make a difference in people's lives? We launched a 3-year study working with the Sorensen Center for Global Impact out of the University of Utah to see if connecting military families to resources and people and community sources where they live with the stewardship and the friendship of their chapter director, does that actually improve people's well-being and their resilience? And over this 3-year study, we were able to see that it did make a difference. We saw that in an average military family, based on our surveys, only about 30% of military connected families feel a sense of belonging in the communities in which they live. Those families who do not have a sense of belonging are the most vulnerable. Those who do are doing the best. We could see through our CCIS study, which is on our website, and we invite you to look at further, that our programming was more likely to create that sense of community. You saw some of that data around Blue Star Welcome Week when Ellen was speaking about that as well. This is an example of the kind of impact that we measure. Yeah, so this is how we've grown. Our Blue Stars are volunteer activations. We have those volunteers activating in all 50 states. The red chapters are our current sponsored chapters. And the two green stars are the new chapters that are coming online. It is our eventual goal to have a presence in all 50 states. We're really excited to get there. It is the #1 thing that our members ask us for. When are you going to get a chapter in Norfolk, in Central Texas, in Fort Bragg, and many other places? So we know we have a responsibility to do that. It's now my honor to welcome Brian Tucker, from CSX to help talk about the importance of chapters. Brian and CSX have been incredible leaders. Brian is on our board as well as his service with CSX, and they have really made this impressive growth and expansion of our chapters possible. So Brian, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you, Kathy. You know, it's hard to pick a favorite program at Blue Star Families, because as we're hearing, so much of what we do as an organization, and I can say we because I'm a proud member of the board, like you said, but I'm also a partner through CSX. But if I had to pick one, I'm just really excited to talk about the chapters, because it's such a fantastic way for companies like mine, who have a fairly large footprint across the country, to get out into the community and really provide support and resources to our military families in these communities, and to help connect them with their neighbors. And whether that be, you know, our employees who are helping to make those connections, or many of our employees are military spouses and who have military families, and that's why it's so important for us to be involved in this. But I can't stress enough how valuable this this partnership, and specifically the work that we do together on the chapters, has been for our organization. The pride and the engagement that we get from our employees and getting out there and involved in all of these chapters, and you can see you saw the stars on the previous slide across the country. It's really fantastic. Together, we supported community engagement events, really designed to combat that isolation and loneliness that we hear about, by helping bolster a sense of belonging. New examples of those events include the Nourish the Service events to help food insecurity by distributing basic needs and pantry supplies. And we also hosted social events like coffee chats and family social outings, and yellow ribbon events as well. Now, in addition to the chapters, Blue Star Families has a wide variety of other impactful programs, which take place at the chapter locations. And with the help of many Blue Star volunteers and partners, we have these great impactful programs, and the examples of which include some of the things that you see here on this slide. The Blue Star book distributions to comfort military kids separated from a parent by deployments or extended trainings, as well as museum access and you know, great outdoor activities for spouses and families to connect and build a support system with other spouses. And having been to many of the chapter launches, I can tell you that these are fantastic programs. The military families, and especially to see the kids and the joy that they have through some of these activities, it's just tremendous. Now, the proof really of the success of these chapters and the programs is highlighted in the outcomes. And we know that 4 and 5 participants feel more connected being part of a chapter. 7 in 10 have stronger networks, and more than half feel a better sense of belonging, which is really important. And our military is strongest when the families of those who serve are taken care of, and that's what we are committed to doing. Our communities as a whole are strongest, you know, I think when we take care of one another. And these numbers and these impact numbers are really, really good for our space, and really highlight how effective the efforts of Blue Star Families and their partners truly are. So Kathy, with that, I want to thank you again for allowing me to share a few of my thoughts here with everyone. It's always an honor to speak about the importance of the collaborative community-based network and the importance of companies that step up and who are really committed to making a difference for the families of those who serve our country. It's just been so tremendous. And I know that I can speak on behalf of all of the employees at CSX who've been involved in this. They just love it. It makes them so proud, and it's really delivered a tremendous amount of value to our organization. Not only are we doing something that we know is good for the community, but we are getting something truly back that our employees really appreciate. And none of the work would really be possible without the collective efforts of the wide range of stakeholders gathered here today. And I just love being able to highlight all the efforts with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was really awesome. And I think that the chapter slides underscore why it's important for us to grow the chapters, because with the programs that we can bring to a community when we have a chapter, with the oversight that the chapter director and the team provides, the ability to evaluate, all of that is possible with the chapter. We can't do that outside of that chapter setting. So if you're interested in supporting one of our existing chapters or helping us launch new chapters, it's a way to really have an outsized impact and a measurable impact that you can see. And now our next impact area is our campaign for inclusion. I'd like to share a brief video before I have the pleasure of turning it over to Admiral Sinclar Harris.
My son was going to school at Stanford, but he drove down to this place where we stay at this base. And the first time he went through, they gave him a hard time. And that weekend was kind of a disaster for us. We didn't have a good time because he was really upset at how he was treated. So we created a new policy in the Bostic household that once he was about 100 yards away from the gate, my wife she'd get in the driver's seat and she would drive him in. And we'd have a great weekend. And now it was a 3-star. And he was driving up to the gate. He called. He goes, "No, Dad, it's going to be all right. I'll just drive it." So he drives in, and 5 minutes later, he says, "Dad, I need help. I'm at the gate." And I run to the gate, and there are 3 policemen with their weapons drawn, pointing at him in the car. And one of them's holding up my 3-star placard. And I walk up and I say, "What's the problem?" And he says, "Well, this young man has got this placard of a 3-star. There's no way this is his car." And I grabbed the placard and I said, "That's my placard. I worked about 30 years to earn that. That's my son, and that's my car. So I want you to put your weapons down, relax, and I want you to tell me who your boss is." I had the rank to make change. If it was my dad, Master Sergeant Bostic, and this happened to him, he'd just say, "Okay, I've been stepped on again," but he'd move out. But he wouldn't be able to challenge the system.
I was stationed in a small town in Mississippi, and he was racially profiled twice. He was 13. He was tall for his age, but if you had a conversation with him, you clearly knew he was 13. But because of that, my family, we had to make a tough decision, and I no longer felt that my son was safe. I made the decision that he would go move with family, all because I was afraid for his life. He started and finished high school without being in my home, and that was tough.
George was in the Army for 41 years. I never knew until being on this committee that there were people of color who turned down assignments because they feared for the safety of their families. I never knew that. 41 years, for God's sakes, and I never heard that.
Over a year ago, Blue Star Families took on the challenge of creating a more inclusive community through our Racial Equity and Inclusion Initiative, with our board vice chair, Lieutenant General retired Gwen Bingham, leading the charge.
My fellow committee members and I have a goal of addressing 5 impact areas: research and advocacy, training, leadership, collaboration, and community impact.
We want to be the role model to bring everybody together, to create networks
and show the world how this can be done.
We need to keep making progress. We know that being more diverse and more inclusive makes us stronger. We have the opportunity to be examples, to show the world what's possible and what can be achieved by being stronger together.
Well, that's fantastic words from Admiral Sinclar Harris. I'm so delighted to have you with us today, Cinc, and let me turn it over to you now.
And thank you, Kathy, for your great leadership and the great work of all the members of Blue Star families. What you do is so important, more important now than ever, for retaining our great joint force. Again, Sinclar Harris served 34 years United States Navy, and I'm happy to talk on behalf of the REI committee about the wonderful work that's been done by our fellows and by our team. Go ahead and get to the next slide when you're ready. General Bingham, who is a marvelous leader for our group, talked about the 5 pillars, and you see them across here. And Blue Star Families has invested $1.8 million. That used to be called real money, but it's a lot more than any other group has invested in this space. And our racial equity work matters because many of our recruits are people of color, more than ever before. You look at the demographics of our nation, it tells you that. And we won't be able to retain an all-volunteer force if we don't create a military that is welcoming to all. And that really includes our family. An old statement, the military recruits individuals, we retain families, more now than ever before. Now, when we look at across the 5 pillars, here's the bottom line. It's holistic. It's a holistic approach to getting after this challenging area for our nation and for the military that serves it. Go ahead into the next slide. When you look at some of our findings and advocacy work, it's all supported by data, by hard, solid research. And I was an operations research analyst by training, so I love good research and love good data. And they've done that in a great deal here. When we started this initiative, we realized that no one had asked how military and veteran connected families of color were doing. I know nobody asked mine and any of the ones that I'm around. So it was interesting to see what the feedback came. And in 2021, we fielded a first of its kind survey about the diverse experiences of military and veteran connected families of color. We gathered responses from over 2,700 participants. And there were some eye-popping stats that turned out. More than 1 in 5 active duty respondents of color had been threatened or harassed 5 or more times. And that was only since January of 2020. Nearly half the active duty family members of color needed help because of food insecurity. And I can tell you that a lot of them came from insecure environments before that ever began. So it didn't get much better. Now, these are not things that you would imagine for the world's greatest military, a joint force that is so capable as ours, but it's true. And it's perspective. Next slide, please. So, with incredible leadership, and again, I'm a Navy guy, so all this Army is something, but it's all good. It's all good. All right, and it's incredible leaders that have led, and a diverse leadership group that has been assembled of senior flag general, non-commissioned officers that have worked together to anchor our work in moving forward. Go ahead, next slide. So they've worked, the work has been endorsed by former defense leaders. You can see the documents here on the slide here, 3 service secretaries of defense, military service secretaries and more, drawing on our work. The DoD recently released and Equity Action Plan. Diverse military families are explicitly highlighted as deserving more support, especially economic and food insecurity. Again, to make our joint force better and retain it and stronger. And oh, by the way, but when you retain the force, you save money because you don't have to retrain people all the time. Next slide. So these are our deploy fellows, and again, thank you to our sponsors, because we couldn't do this without your help. The research showed military families of color lacked access to resources because of underrepresentation in minority military serving organizations, veteran service organizations. Our deploy fellows created a pipeline for future leaders to close this disparity. Our inaugural class of 11 fellows, including Kelly Clore, who created Blue Star Families, Nourish the Service food insecurity work, as well as Nicole Rawlinson, who will remain with Blue Star Families to lead Blue Star Outdoors, a program that encourages outdoor engagement to support mental health. We all know how important that really is today. And, you know, we've had incidents on the George Washington that underpinned that recently. These fellows will be hired by military and veteran serving nonprofit organizations, bringing much needed diversity of thought, diversity of background to this ecosystem. And I couldn't be more proud of the members of our initial fellows group. Go to the next slide when you have a chance. As you can see, we have a robust group of stakeholders committed to this effort. For those of you who are here today, thank you. God bless you. Couldn't appreciate you more. And a lot of partners and organizations have committed to interviewing our deployed fellows. Again, thank you. We need your help. We're moving the field, organizing other nonprofits to develop a set of recommendations and best practices for our military and veteran service organizations. And this will make our military and our country stronger and better. We briefed over 100 city, state, federal, community organizations. The state of Utah, for example, is considering collaboration with Blue Star Families on needs assessment in response to a number of requests from military families of color there to receive authorization for an early PCS. So we're addressing real problems in a real way right now. Next slide. This is our logo, our campaign for inclusion. We'll continue our groundbreaking work under the campaign for inclusion, except to see more data-driven action through targeted outreach to local communities, installation commanders, nonprofits, and media. We'll continue to share the findings and to work collaboratively with diversity and inclusion offices in each branch of the armed forces. And we'll continue to pursue significant efforts to address the systematic issues of underrepresentation in the nonprofit sector and drive change that ensures sustainability of our all-volunteer force. Now, before I introduce the next speaker, I want to take a moment to thank, again, our partners, our sponsors, our stakeholders in meeting the needs that have been answering the call of Blue Star Families campaign for inclusion, and ultimately our military families of color, creating a military that is welcoming to all of our nation and building us stronger together and making it all possible. With that, I will be passing it on to Mike Meese, as demonstrated today. Blue Star Families is a leader in the military and veteran connected space, to share how Blue Star Families has not only helped to create, but also leverage the power of military and veteran service communities through the White Oak Retreat and White Oak Collaborative. I'd now like to introduce a colleague and our friend, General Retired Mike Meese. Mike is the president of Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association and has been a longtime supporter of White Oak efforts and a member of Blue Star Families Advisory Board. General, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Admiral. I, again, applaud, and I think everybody really from the video and your presentation recognize the great value of the Racial Equity Initiative and how it really is path-breaking and critical, not just for military families, but for really military readiness, retention, and everything. So thank you for your efforts and those that were on that and are going to continue that going forward. I'm wanted to share with you a little bit about White Oak, and some of you have heard of it. Really, when you think of the strategy of listen, share, partner, and act, one of the best parts of Blue Star Families is that it's an organization, and I'm on the advisory board, that doesn't think that Blue Star Families is going to do everything for everybody all the time, but they in fact improve the contact and the impact that they have by reaching out to many, many other people and many, many other organizations. And they've done that through what is now being called the White Oak process. It started out with the first retreat in 2010 and is became one of the driving forces behind the 2011 Joining Forces initiative that was led at that time by First Lady Michelle Obama and Dr. Jill Biden, and has now been picked up and continued in this administration as a way to connect together both private nonprofit veteran organizations and government organizations and facilitating working them together. White Oak retreats are driven by a steering committee, and you see some of the members of the steering committee that are here that every year get together and try to find what are the key 1 to 3 issues that need to be focused on. Kind of like Wayne Gretzky says, it's not skating to where the puck is, but to where the puck's going to be, and be able to convene together in a not for attribution, private, good group of high-level discussion of, again, philanthropists, nonprofit groups, government people that ordinarily would not necessarily get together to be able to look at key issues. For example, just earlier this month, we had a meeting of 50 of us and addressed 2 critical issues. The issues related to the economic insecurities, including food insecurity that we just heard about, as well as military youth mental health. And it gave all of us an opportunity to network with each other, to understand the issue better, and to figure out where each of our organizations could work in coordination and cooperation with government organizations and others to be able to move things forward. What was really interesting about this when COVID hit was that the White Oak Retreat, which was kind of an annual event, evolved into the White Oak Collaborative because we couldn't get together, obviously because of COVID. Yet all of these organizations really needed to network to be able to help out the military and our military organizations wherever they happen to be, and military families. Blue Star Families was instrumental in working with some of the people that you see on the slide here, getting all of these organizations together initially weekly, and then it was so successful that it launched a whole bunch of collaboratives of funding organizations, linkages between the Red Cross and the Department of Defense, and many other opportunities where now every 2 weeks, people, even after COVID has somewhat waned, we were able to, people were so positive about this that they are now getting together every 2 weeks, frequently with a government speaker or other speakers. Just it allows over 100 organizations to know what each other is doing, to facilitate coordination, to facilitate cooperation. And it's just another example of how Blue Star Families has really presented information and opportunities and expanded the impact to all different kinds of veteran serving military organizations, caregiver organizations, and many others. It's been amazing to see what has happened through that. And like every other good Blue Star Family effort, it's data driven. And a lot of times the White Oak Collaborative is sharing the data. And so as the final main subject to talk about in this stakeholders call, it's my honor to be able to introduce our Director of Data, Dr. Jessica Strong, the Senior Director of Applied Research. She's been with Blue Star Family since 2017 and spearheads our Military Family Lifestyle Survey. Her team works tirelessly supporting all of what we do. And so Jessica, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, General Meese. I appreciate the lovely intro. So our applied research team is so excited to share with you some of the phenomenal accomplishments that we have been able to see in 2021 as a result of the collective effort of all of our stakeholders. Here we'll show you listen, share, partner, and act starts with listening. And listening for us starts with research. So in 2021, we listened to over 20,000 research participants, including survey and pulse poll respondents and focus group participants. Then we shared what we learned from those 20,000 people at nearly 400 presentations in 4 different congressional testimonies and in the endorsement of 20 different legislative efforts. And from what we've listened, learned, and shared has made an impact. For example, you'll see our findings on spouse employment in the 2021 MFLS and our pulse check on military and veteran families' financial needs has led to the inclusion of military spouses as a protected class in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Our research on military families' perceptions of COVID-19 vaccine drove our COVID-19 vaccine awareness campaign, which increased the likelihood that military and veteran families would receive a COVID-19 vaccine. And our rapid response pulse check on military families' feelings about the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan and supporting our Afghan allies, which was fielded in very early September 2021, right after the withdrawal, has led to our collaboration with Welcome.us to connect key stakeholders and improve the resettlement efforts. You can see the theory of change at work here. We listened, we shared, we partnered with others, and we collectively continue to act. So I'll share with you another example. We first raised the issue of military spouse employment as a major military family lifestyle issue in our military family lifestyle survey years ago, and it remains a top issue today. In fact, despite many programs, many resources, many initiatives that are aimed at tackling this problem, the unemployment rate for military spouses hasn't significantly improved in years. So that's one reason that we, alongside our partners at USAA, Navy Federal Credit Union, and PenFed, are embarking on a longitudinal study that explores how military spouses can be employed at their desired capacity. This multi-year study will kick off in our 2022 Military Family Lifestyle Survey, which fields starting May 23rd, and it will follow the same group of spouses for several years through relocations and deployments and transitions and more to find out what works to keep spouses employed and help them obtain and retain that employment. And now I'd like to hand it back over to Kathy Roth-Douquet.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. We are really proud of you and your entire team. Blue Star Families, we often say we punch above our weight. Certainly in our AR team in particular, you guys are really fantastic, and thank you for all you do. For those of you on this call, you are very important to us. Whether you're a current partner, as most of you are, or a future partner, we know that none of the things we do, we could do alone. And you matter to us, which is why we prepared this brief for you. We hope it gave you more visibility and transparency into many of the major areas we work, how we do it and why we do it, but we are open for suggestions, we're open for improvements, we're open for questions. We hope we can keep this dialogue going. We hope you remain our battle buddies and our partners, our thought partners in all of the work we do. Before we let you go, we want to, because we love collecting data, please do this after event survey to let us know what you thought of this and what you would like to see more of and what we could do better. We're always looking to improve, and we appreciate you taking a moment to do that. Your partnership is valuable. We will be following up with emails. We'll give you a copy of this brief if you'd like to have it, and we would love to share with you some of our upcoming events if you would care to join us. Thanks for your time today. I promise to let you go now, and we look forward to seeing you again in another Blue Star Family event or one of your events. Take care, everyone.